Netosportsglobal. Netosportsglobal. Hashtag NSG. Remember to like and subscribe.
Greetings and a very warm welcome to Netosportsglobal, hashtag NSG, proudly powered by the Academy of Sound Engineering, hashtag ASE. Today is a special occasion. It is the fourth episode of NSG, and we welcome the Motorsport gurus. Talking about gurus, we've got the champion and a legend in motorsport, Mr. Peter Lanz, a champion that brought to planet Earth another champion in Fabienne Lanz, the race queen. Let's start with the legend of the legends, Mr. Peter Lanz. Mr. Lanz, a very good afternoon and a warm welcome to Netosportsglobal.
Welcome. Nice to be here.
Thank you so much. As we welcome you to this conversation, it warms my heart because you made it a point that at the age of 9 years, this champion sitting right next to you kicks off her career in motorsport. And I always say, if you start late in any career, in any sporting code, you're bound to fail. But if you start in good time, you're bound to become a champion that she is. So thank you so much for the awesome work that you've done. Let's also welcome the race queen to Netosportsglobal, looking all gorgeous with a beautiful smile. A very good day and a warm welcome to Netosportsglobal.
Thank you very much. It's good to be here.
Thank you so much for joining us. So before we start the conversation, Mr. Lanz, I want to take you back to 1989 when Fabienne Lanz was only 3 years old. Please give us a name that she struggled to pronounce, but you could hear what she was trying to say.
Well, that is most probably difficult for me to understand, whatever. But one thing you have to obviously know, she did ballet at the time.
Wow.
Not racing.
At 3 years?
At there, she was starting with ballet first. And of course, me in motorsport, whatever, so that changed.
Wow. And race queen, what's this one thing that you've seen your father, Mr. Lanz, excelling in, but as he grows old, because he's not a young man like me anymore, you started seeing him struggling? It could be a device, a technological device that you saw him struggle and you had to assist him with.
Okay, so obviously that's maybe in the later years as the world evolves. It happens to a lot of parents, I think. Where the technology is going a lot faster than what they can catch up with. We see it with the youngsters today, even that are younger than me or half my age. The things they know, and I already think I'm old school. But I think he learns fast, so he catches on quickly. Yeah.
So he's a true legend.
Yes.
There you have it. And now you know who our guests are. My name is Neto, N-E-T-O Chemani. Hosiati Konyangazi Momkajwa Pandle Ronjani Moyani Vuku Dendele. If you have just joined us, a very warm welcome, and remember to do the right thing, like and subscribe. This is Netosportsglobal episode 4, proudly powered by the Academy of Sound Engineering, hashtag ASE. Mr. Lanz, let's start with you. You were born in Switzerland, but you've spent most of your time in South Africa. How was it growing up in Switzerland, and how long did it take you before you moved to South Africa?
I moved to South Africa in 1975 for a quite funny reason. I wanted to get away from motorsport, which of course I didn't manage. Right away you can see this. I started motorsport in 1966 already in Europe, and then the race there for another 8 years or 7 years, let's say that one. And then eventually I just couldn't take it anymore. Every weekend on a racetrack, everywhere else, whatever. I say, no, that's too much for me. So I find a job, and I worked for Porsche at the time. So Porsche was looking for people in South Africa, so I came to South Africa.
Interesting indeed. And what do you think about a scenario where you're trying to get away from motorsport, but before you know it, you're back at it again, and at the age 75, you're still passionate about the sport?
You shouldn't have said that. I know you can see it here. But look, motorsport, it's always in. You're either in or you're not in. You know, if you're half in and whatever, you're not so sure, then you fly by night and eventually you're out. And of course, I always wanted to, I wanted to get away. But then, of course, it started, and I went to a race at Kyalami, the first race in 77 again, and got involved in the Grand Prix stuff. And so it went on, and so then you keep on going. I wanted to be a aircraft engineer first, but I didn't get a job in Switzerland, so I left that, whatever. And then eventually, later on, I made the pilot license, and I got a license for 7 different planes. But that was not really the thing. It took me into motorsport, and eventually I saw we need to have a development. And today you can start motorsport with 4 years old, not like she was already 9. So you have a different equipment, different safety, different things. I think if you don't start with 4, then you almost missed already.
Fabienne, you started the sport 5 years later. You were supposed to start at 4, according to the legendary motorsport specialist, Mr. Lanz. You started 9, which is still not a bad age, but it could have been ideal to start at 4. What did you get up to at the age of 4, and why did you start only at 9?
So like my dad mentioned earlier on, ballet was the thing that I did. I enjoyed that a lot. But when it got very technical with the ballet going into more of that season of what it is, I didn't enjoy it that much anymore. And then I picked up swimming. Both parents were very pro on, take up a sport. And then, funny enough, we went to, most kids start like that, is to an indoor party, but that was for parents because they didn't make carts for smaller kids at that time. So the youngest was 8 or 9. The 4-year-old, they drive a much smaller cart. So they gave the kids a bunch of pillows, and then they said, well, get in the grown-up cart and then drive around. So it was indoor karting, a lot slower, a lot safer. And from that day, I said, okay, well, I actually quite like this. And if I think about it today, what I liked a lot about it is my nature is to be very curious and learn things and understand things. So motorsport gives you the opportunity to do that because it's so many things that need to go right or put together to be able to win a race that it constantly changes as well and evolves, like we spoke earlier on with technology, that always kept me interested.
When one looks at your favorite motorsport drivers, it's your father, Peter Lanz, it's Sebastian Vettel, and Michael Schumacher. I'm not going to talk about the other 2. Talk to us about your father. What kind of a motorsport legend is he?
So I guess the picture that I always saw is him persevering, him pushing through. He was a privateer racer. I always sat in his racing cars, played in the workshop. That was not my playground. But obviously seeing him win races, the precedence is there of that's the example. That's what I need to push up to. But definitely, again, perseverance, fighting, in a sense of fighting, always pushing through what you need to do to get to the top, whether it's rules, regulations, unfair driving on the track. We always say we want to win on the track with the checkered flag. That should be the winner, but sometimes there is technicalities. And he always goes for what is right. So he can disagree with how I see it, or if I'm in an altercation and I crash, he'll often turn around and say, you almost created that yourself. He won't be a person of just trying to pick my side just because I'm his kid. He always stays true.
Mr. Lanz, let's bring you back to the conversation. I've noticed a like father, like daughter scenario with you and Fabienne. And I've also noticed that in families where fathers are absent, you do not find that for obvious reasons that they are absent. But when fathers are present, champions like her come up because of the presence of the father. Talk to us about the importance of having a father figure present to their children's careers, especially in sport, because you could cope educationally, but sport, you need someone to push you in the right direction, someone who's walked the path, like you've walked the same path of motorsport, like Fabienne Lanz joined you later.
Look, obviously that is important when you have the parents supporting their kids. But I mean, there is today many things. And me, I quite a part of interesting stories for me to look after kids. And I always did very well with kids, 4 years old or not 4 years old. And I did a lot of development. So I said, no, we need to give something back in the sport. But parents need to understand this is not world champion in the first weekend. And that is maybe the biggest problem. It's not so easy to get to the right moment. And the slowest people in the beginning might be the quickest one later on. So you can't say, oh, I need to check the lap time already after 2 practice sessions. Let's give the time whatever. Once you pass 13, now it becomes important. But until then, you can learn and see whatever the story is. And for sure, the parents need to support the kids. And not because they want to sit in the pub and say, oh, we won the race or whatever it is. Because the parents try to live through their kids, which, of course, in my case was a bit different. Because I didn't have to live motorsport through Fabienne. I did this all before. So it is important, the support for the parents. But the parents need to understand the business. Now, motorsport is not such an easy job. Just sit in the car and drive. Because everybody thinks they can drive a car so they can drive a race car. It's not the case. And you need to learn much more things around it. But motorsport will grow you up. I see that with all the kids who do motorsport by us at the track, in the school, whatever, they have to fast forward in anything they do. Because in motorsport, you are in charge of yourself. You make things happen, you make things go. You don't wait for a teammate or give you the ball and make a goal or play the corner and roll on the grass for happiness. So you have to make your own decision. Never the parents, the dad will not help you. The mother is not sitting next to you in the car. You need to decide what you do. But when it goes bad, parents need to support it. Look, I had many fights with Fabienne. I can tell you that one when we go and I said, if we don't want to do it properly, let's go home and do it on Wednesday. Why we waste the weekend? But that is stress. And stress, of course, I understand. I understand parents must probably be better than most because this is a stressful situation when you don't know what happened. But the parents' support, dad there or the mother there or not, it's important, that's for sure.
With the fights you've had with Fabienne, for a good cause, though, because you wanted her to bring out the best in herself, what kind of a driver is she?
Yeah, of course. Look, today I am quite happy to say when she goes and races karts or anything else, I say, they asked me yesterday, what are you doing? I say, I just looked after the brakes and I set the tire pressure and she strips the carburetor and does that stuff herself. So she knows what's going on and she has to drive maybe 2 laps and can tell you already what is wrong, which is most important. Most people, they drive around and they sit on the phone and play PlayStation. Motorsport is no time for PlayStation.
And Fabienne, you got to witness your father doing his thing, and here you are also as a champion. Talk to us about what you've seen in him that has stuck into your mind and you like, this one, I'm taking it with me throughout the journey.
So listening to the conversation, what he said now, definitely one of the early day things was where he said, listen to your engine. And some kids today, they want to listen to music while they're racing. And like we said, it's not a PlayStation playing or it's not fun. It's like serious fun. And there's a lot of stress and that's involved because it's competition. And again, you're on your own on the track and you need to do your thing. So yes, listening to the engine, and I think that was the beginning of actually understanding of what it does. So back then, the carburation was you tuned it yourself. And today, it's a different system that you use, so you don't have to do that anymore. But it still sets the precedence or the baseline or foundation of what you use today. And I think a lot of successful races I've had is purely on those kind of finer technical details of tire pressures so that the kart is very quick at the end. That way you become more relaxed. And most of the time when you're racing, you're buying yourself time anyway as well. And I used to watch main circuit racing, car racing on the TV screens. We always watched the accidents. And then he would ask me, whose fault is it? And then we would watch and sit and analyze. But that also taught me when I race as to how to avoid an accident. So those are the biggest things, yeah.
No, I know for sure that when you say he would ask me, I was sitting with him there for a few minutes and he kept on hitting hot questions my way. So that's the legend right there. Mr. Lanz, from your days as a champion to the current days, when you compare motorsport in your days versus the current, has the sport developed? Has it grown to where it's supposed to be in South Africa? You can spread it to the African continent. I know you are well-traveled.
Well, you know, I have to say, this sounds actually terrible. I have to say, thanks God, I raced before the 2000, because the sport was in a different level. But of course, everything tries, goes up and down and goes forward and backwards. Our biggest problem is, or that's what I believe, our development for the people in the street doesn't happen, or is not happening maybe fast enough for me, whatever it is, because I'm running out of time sooner or later. But if we want to make the sport using as an interest of the country to grow up, we have to operate with the man in the street. And that's not a matter of color. That's a matter of how we bring youngsters into the people, into the sport and what we do. We used to go up. We used to go easy. We worked like mad in the sport. But today the technical stuff is far more in a different level than what we used to have. So your personal thing to be clever was more important. Now you have all sorts of engineers, and most of the time the computer more important than in real fact the driver. But to make an impact on the, let's call it maybe political scene in South Africa or Africa as a whole, or in the world as a whole, it needs to be that we operate in grassroots level. After 15, if you're 15 and older, that thing happens by itself. You go in a different way. And motorsport is not just driving. We all think motorsport is driving a Formula One car. It's not the case at all. Motorsport has a massive development in engineering, in medical stuff, in hospitals, in anything, marshals, all that stuff. So it's actually a big business opportunities, which people sometimes don't understand. They say, I'm involved in racing. I want to be a racing driver. I want to be Hamilton. You know, now you're not going to be Hamilton overnight. But we don't know if Hamilton, the new Hamilton, is not walking down the street somewhere. We don't know that if we don't try. So we need to try to bring it into a level. So I think motorsport goes up, then it goes down, then it goes up. But of course, the responsibility is the controlling body. In essence, the controlling body needs to see where we're going with motorsport. It's like soccer, FIFA looks after that, and FIA looks after motorsport, and so it goes on. So in each country, the controlling body is in charge of what we're doing.
Interesting indeed. If you have just joined us, a very warm welcome to Netosportsglobal, hashtag NSG, proudly powered by the Academy of Sound Engineering, hashtag ASE. We've got interesting and incredible guests with us. The legend when it comes to motorsport, Mr. Peter Lanz, together with his daughter, Fabienne Lanz, like father, like daughter. Fabienne, you've heard what the legend has said about lack of development, or if it's there, it's not where it's supposed to be, because there's always raw talent somewhere that is neglected, and it doesn't look like, efforts are enough to reach out to that talent. You've been in the game. What are you witnessing in as far as development of motorsport in the country is concerned?
So when I was younger, my dad ran the development structure with the Sports 2000, and obviously there we got the legendary Guguzulu came out of that. So there is success stories that go around that. So we tried to do it again as I got older. I think it was successful with the economy and this, what we were given to do that, but it sort of comes in phases. It comes and it goes, and it's not consistent. And I think that's where the waves of opportunities come and go. Doing girls' camp, I did 2 years in 2023. It was very successful to try and see and identify if, what about the ladies? Do they want to get in motorsport? What are the challenges that ladies face? I know from what I faced in motorsport. And of course, for me, it's also a little bit different because I grew up with the motorsport background. So I have an advantage in that respect. But I think changing the outlook a bit into what life skills can we actually equip people with in the grassroots level, I think can make a success in someone's life. And then, like my dad mentioned earlier on, once you're 15, 16, your will or your way is where your will is. You will try hard enough, you will get somewhere.
At what age of your journey did you tell that, you know what, I'm a champion in motorsport?
I guess when you start winning races, that's when you start seeing, or I started seeing that I can do this. Generally, I think women are a bit or draw a bit back, and I did the same. Most of the times thinking that, maybe I shouldn't do this, and I don't know how to get around it and go. But then I always said, okay, just try the one more. And of course, trying the one more meant I was winning that race. So then that becomes a whole championship that I win. And then, of course, we say, okay, now we need to do this again. So most people think it's a lot of hard work to get to being a champion. And it's actually the hard work starts then. When you start winning is to stay there. Again, because there's always new people coming in, technology, something's always changing. And that's what makes it challenging, but I like it. I enjoy it.
What's the one thing that your father once told you that you are taking with to wherever your destination is?
Wow, I think there's more than one. I think it's always, I was going to say maybe giving your best, but he often says, my best is not the same as your best. But that opens up the mind to potentialities and that. I think it would be when I ask, am I fast enough? So then he'll say, okay, maybe fast enough today, but tomorrow's another day. So that's reframing. So that definitely is very key because there's so many things that can go wrong in a race, engine, kart crashing, things like that. So being optimistic, reframing, not giving up, staying real as to what is the situation and always being honest.
Lanz, what do you love so much about speed?
Well, it is difficult to say. I drove a couple of fast cars, and it must probably, you feel in the element because it's only you and the car. You are yourself. That's why also when I used to do the flying, whatever it is, and I wanted to do different planes and another plane and night rating and flying at night is completely madness. But it's you and you in control of what you're doing. You don't have to rely on somebody else. That is maybe more the thing. It's not about the speed really going. And I mean, I was probably the slowest driver on the road because I don't have to drive fast on the road. But it's not a matter of me proving me that I can drive 300 km an hour down the road. That's easy. It's the control of the whole thing. How can you be in control of speed and not get it carried away? And so therefore, it's speed is a relevant thing. The closer you to something, if you do indoor karting, the speed feels like plenty, even though you're just next to you don't go that fast, but you're next to the wall. And if you're in an open airfield, maybe the speed at 300 km an hour doesn't look as fast. So it's more like you're in control of what you're doing and nobody else is in control. And that's the same in motorsport or in a kart or in a thing. It's quite safe in general because if you think about the whole picture, but you make your own speed suits you.
When you have a daughter like Fabienne, who is not just a champion, but also a coach, sharing her knowledge with upcoming junior drivers and all of that, how do you talk about areas of improvement based on her career as a motorsport driver? Are there any areas of improvement or she's arrived?
Look, areas of improvement is you're either interested, and especially, people say girls and whatever, and the industry generally doesn't support the woman in motorsport that well for various reasons. Because they get married, boyfriend, story, whatever, then they have kids and whatever. So that's very tricky. That's why Formula One hasn't got too many women in sport. That's not a matter. A woman can fly to the moon and back, so you can drive a Formula One car. But is the industry actually supporting that? And you have to be careful where you go and where you can support. Like Fabienne, for a matter of interest, yesterday she looked, I think the average of the people was 45 to 55 years old, guys in karting. But she can explain to people what the material is, what is the story, not just like reading the book. She has done the job. So, and especially for kids, they look after her and see what's going on. And that is the advantage to give back into the sport. That is where she can make the biggest difference. Because if I tell a girl whatever she must do, it's not the same than my girl tells a girl. And people think, a woman can't drive a Formula One car. It's not the case. Because it's not a matter of strengths. And most probably golf is even harder than that or tennis. But it's a matter of mindset of what's going on. Like I say, the industry slowly gets around it. We have much more women in motorsport involved now than before. But it's still a heavy situation. Yet, from a sponsorship point or marketing point of view, a woman can do shoes, can do clothing, a guy can't do that too well, or jewelries or something like that. So the whole thing has to change, but your life becomes motorsport or it's not motorsport. If you're in motorsport and you want to be in top, forget everything else. That is only motorsport. But there's no difference to golf or tennis or whatever. The tennis top players, that is their job. You can't have anything else in your life.
You've also touched on the fact that motorsport is not just about drivers. And Fabienne also touched on that. There's a whole team that supports the driver. Who are we talking about?
The bottom line is actually from the person who makes the tee. Because when I say we have people involved in motorsport, we used to have most probably about 180, 200,000 people involved in South Africa in motorsport. Today it dropped tremendous from that. But then they say, how? We haven't got so many drivers. So, well, somebody makes the stickers, somebody fits the tires, somebody fixes the engine, somebody fixes that. So the industry is much greater than maybe in a case of soccer. I mean, not knocking soccer or tennis or whatever else it is, or horse riding, whatever, which her sister does. But the industry of motorsport is huge because it goes from spares, it goes from stickers, it goes from panel beating, spray painting cars, fitting tires, make tea for the thing, or the catering. So the industry is huge, what is involved in motorsport. Not every person who starts with 4 years old maybe do motorsport. Maybe by 9, 10 years he thinks, that's actually not for me. But he still wants to be involved. So he becomes a timekeeper, becomes a technical supporter, becomes an engineer. It's endless business.
Wow, exciting indeed. Fabienne, let's talk about a moment where your car breaks down mechanically because of whatever reason. How do you bounce back from a moment like that? I'm thinking mental strength has to be superior there.
So that for sure has to depend on what type of race it is. I've had sometimes where in qualifying something will go wrong, and then I'm like, well, thank goodness, because now I've got all my heats, to go and fix it and not be affected by it. But sometimes it does happen in a really important race. Like I had one once in a world final in Italy, and it was the pre-final, which you really needed to make it, otherwise you don't make the final. And I had a misfire for 3 days, and I told the engineers there, because they supply all the equipment in that race, and I told them that there's a misfire, and they kept saying, but you're the fastest on the track. And I said, I'm not concerned about the speed, it's all great. I'm concerned it's going to switch off. So being heard or not being heard is the challenge. And then, of course, when the thing then breaks down, which it did, it's a complete meltdown, and which is okay. And like you say, mental strength, how do you get back from that? It takes time. It's not easy. But you need to remember, why are you doing this, or why am I doing this? It's the love of getting back up there. And then you get in and you go again.
Mr. Lanz, you've driven hundreds and hundreds of cars in your journey in motorsport. From the junior level, where it starts with go-karting, right up to the elite level where you drive Formula One cars. Take us through that process of different cars. What's the difference in those cars from the junior level right up until the elite level?
Look, first of all, I never had the opportunity to race karts because I came from an area or from a background where we didn't have the money to do any of these things. So the first time I started was most probably 1970 and straight in a modified Porsche, because I said, right, let me get the license. And only I got the license because we had a competition. Whoever brings the most in our area, the most new members into the AA, like the Automobile Association, will get a free license course. So I worked day and night only to get members, and I won the case, and so that's how I got a free thing. It's different now, obviously, in the current situation, and also the karts. I would say most probably since 1995 till now, there was a huge improvement in cars. So they're much more developed now. And of course, the world is pushing slightly for 4-stroke, less 2-stroke, less smoke, less all sorts of environment, even though most of the time it's just stories. Because if you, the funny part is when you when you think, oh, we're going to race electric cars, well, you have to charge the battery somehow. So environment is not, in your first just looks like that. So the easiest thing when you start in small cars, people can drive. Then they can develop. So in my case, it was different. I straight away did in main circuit racing, long distance racing, stuff like that. I raced a 24-hour race, Nürburgring. I raced in Le Mans. I raced all sorts of places. So I was a bit in a different way, but of course my background was cars, But that doesn't have to be that. You can be from anywhere. So today, the karting situation is fantastic for kids to learn. Because when Fabienne started, we all had two-stroke, difficult engines, difficult stuff. So when you go along, what you do till you actually get to Formula One, Formula One is a funny thing. There's only 22 drivers, 2 spares, 4 spares maybe, and only 20 going to race. So we have maybe hundreds of thousands of drivers driving around, whatever, but the only 20. And they keep on saying the 20 best drivers, and I keep on being upset about it. They are not the 20 fastest drivers. That's just the guys who have the best opportunities. Most probably half the field from the back will be quicker than the front guys for different reasons. But you have to aim for the top of the tree. And then if you're lucky, you hit the tree stump. If you aim for the center, you're going to hit the bottom. So your life has to say, what do I want to do? And South Africa is a bit unique to maybe other people. Till about 1985 or so, the single-seater racing, like a Formula One car, was a bit more important. Today it's more cars, tin tops, whatever, what you do. So it's various things where you want to go. And of course, people think they want to go overseas. We want to go somewhere else. But for that, you need opportunity, you need government involvement, you need the federation involvement. There's not just like send the bank account and off you go. Because when you only send the bank account and off you go, that doesn't mean that you're the fastest driver. And South Africa has very fast drivers in the world, absolutely, for a different reason. I believe the South African will, because of the situation we are, is bigger than most other countries. Because you want to go there. And when you go like me, when I do the 24-hour race in an M3, and I say, hey, we must change the seat, we must change the story. They say, no, we leave it as it is. And the South African always try to find a way to make a plan to go faster. So I think our life is slightly different in South Africa, even though I'm not born here. But of course, I virtually grew up here between 24 and now. So there is endless opportunities, development from a small car to a bigger car, to a bigger car, to a bigger car, and eventually you go the thing. Like Fabienne won the championship 3 times in South Africa in a car which is equal to its Formula One level. 1 to 5 shifters, the speed from 0 to 100 is massive. If you have to think, you're too late. If you arrive on a corner, you have to think what you're going to do. The corner is past. So it gives your life a different thing. And I drove most probably about 58 different racing cars in general all road show, and all either prepared by me or I raced with other teams, including German touring cars and stuff like that. But there's a variety of everything and the progression of where you want to go and where you want to see. But that actually comes more from the country you are. If you most probably in England, you're more single-seater type of thing, Formula 4, F3, F2, F1. And if you're in America, there's more you're going towards NASCAR, because that's their life. In Australia, it's more maybe V8s, whatever it is. In South Africa, it's more cars in general. It's more a country of cars. But more Africa altogether. It's a bit like Middle East too,
What's in the proposal that you've written for Formula One? What does it entail?
That's a real tricky story now. Now you're putting the thing on. Look, for me, the first number, if you talk about Formula One, I watch every single thing. That you can be for sure. Never mind where and how and 5 times. Sometimes I fall asleep because it's boring. But sometimes it's very good, and you need to see the background. I'm not just looking at the driving. I look at the people in the pits, the mechanics, the story. I think about what happened. Now let's go to Formula One. I think Formula One, first of all, we should all think about it, South Africa. Let's think about South Africa, not Cape Town, Kyalami, Durban, whatever else. First, we need to say, do we think Formula One is for South Africa? And I think, of course, yes, for sure. But we need to stick together. But South African thing have tendency, if I can't have it, you can't have it. And that's, of course, a mistake. We need to work first together. Then we need to say, what is good for the South African industry? That's me. Maybe I'm completely wrong. But it's not a matter of driving a racing car anymore. The industry on Formula One for the last 5-6 years is a huge industry. It's not like when Bernie raced it and whatever. He did a fantastic job, make no mistake. But then we're racing first. And then became all the business afterwards. Today is the business first. And the racing just happened because on the event. So you have to say, where would the business suit South Africa the best in the world? Because it's not the racing driver who decides that. It's the people who go and watch this, the industry. We want to get the industry to South Africa. We want to get investment into South Africa. So you need to see where the tourism goes, where the people want to go, where it holds. And me, I say, we have to go to Cape Town. Even if I stay here and I'm a Kyalami guy, make no mistake. I did most probably more laps in Kyalami than anybody else with all the long-distance races. But where is it the best place for South Africa? And where can we create the most jobs is my first instinct. I say, and like me, I'm pushing obviously my luck, is I want to create 15,000 permanent jobs if we have the Grand Prix. If we can't do that, we actually failed. We failed the country or the people in the street, whatever it is. We need to look the industry happening. And I want the industry to go on, not like what we had before, you know. So if we switch the light off on Monday and we just pack up all the stuff, then what we done? We just done an event. If we want to make a suitable business for South Africa, we need to look is what the past is after Monday.
Wow, exciting. Feb, the idea of Formula One in South Africa is very close to the Minister of Sport, Arts and Culture, Gayton McKenzie. He speaks highly of this event coming to South Africa, and it's not a cheap event. The legend has just outlined, and also the ideal area to host this Formula One if it does come to South Africa. What are your thoughts on Formula One coming to South Africa?
So naturally, yes, we all want to go and watch it. And there's a lot of motorsport people in South Africa. They enjoy it, the sound, the whole atmosphere and that. But again, is it sustainable? Is it good for the country? Because if it is going to be an event that's just going to come and go once a year, a lot of companies are going to put on their marketing strategy to be at that event. And then all the local infrastructure or people that are relying on that sponsorship or business deal, they're going to lose out. And then that doesn't look after the economy. So same vision again. It has to look after the local sustainability first. And of course, there's a lot of things we can latch onto that. Is the development, is to have an academy, like here. And again, all these other things that we can add on, which you can do all year round.
What are some of your highlights in motorsport? Because you've traveled the world through motorsport. Is it the Lonato circuit that's your favorite in Italy? So what are some of your highlights and your favorite circuits?
So the one you mentioned, Lonato, is a favorite, but I think it purely because it was the beginning of the overseas racing that I did, and it was the one that I did so well at in 2007. And being double African champion, again, always trying to do things that's not been done before, and then lifting the bar. And I think most of them are the ones that were the hardest, are the most rewarding. The ones where I really thought, maybe this is really not going to come my way. And for some reason or another, I shifted something or I tried one more time. And then it all just comes together. And of course, winning a South African championship is a big one in 2020, purely because I have to race against men. We all race in one class, but I don't see it like that. It's still me, the person that wants to win. But of course, it adds a cherry on the cake when you can say, no, it was a girl that actually beat all the guys. And it's more about I did whatever I needed to do so that I can be successful. And that's very rewarding. And then from there, some people say, winning is everything. And then once you get there, it's like, no, there's actually more to it. And that's the giving back part. And coaching children watching them race overseas, winning races, that actually fulfills me even more than standing there myself.
Your protective gear, your helmet is here, personalized Fabienne Lanz. Talk to us about the protective gear in motorsport and what sort of relationship do you have with it? Because when I spoke to you about it, you were busy cleaning it earlier on, and I realized that it must be a special relationship.
Yes, of course. It is there to protect you, so you need to look after it. And this particular helmet, so most of them, or all of them, are purple and yellow, but it comes from my dad's design that was, or is, purple with the 4 yellow pinstripes. And evolution is what it is, but yes, it's protecting your head. You can have an accident and you want to be able to walk away from that. And of course, when you're in a racing car, you've got fire retardant clothing. In go-karts, you've got a rib protector, very important because there's no suspension in a go-kart. And of course, when you, let's say you do detach from the kart, you need that protection. And also, I think it's a mindset thing. Once you've got that protective gear on, your focus is just a lot better. I had a lot of students that had a lot of accidents elsewhere, whatever they were doing, yet we never had an accident in racing. So mentally, I think it also does a shift there as to I am protected, but I still need to focus. And again, the general principle of look after it and it looks after you.
Wow. Mr. Lanz, practically speaking, how soon can Formula One come to South Africa, considering that there's a lot that goes into making certain that the country is ready to host such an event of this caliber?
Look, first of all, it's a fight of anything, like you say, with Minister McKenzie. And there's pro and cons, and people fight with him and have arguments and different views and whatever. But one thing I always say to all the people we're discussing this, without Minister McKenzie, we wouldn't talk Formula One. So why didn't we talk this before? He made it happen. He gave us the ideas, let's have an argument about it or a discussion, whatever. If he now supports where we go, whatever, I'm convinced he supports Formula One to come to South Africa. Where it goes afterwards is somebody else's job, actually, because he is for South Africa. It's not for Kyalami or anybody, whatever, what is good for the motorsport. So I am, in a certain way, most certainly grateful that he started. Otherwise, we wouldn't have this discussion. And we didn't have to wait for him. We just all sleeping because he woke up. So that is the first thing. Look, Formula One, like I say, it depends where you go. And people sometimes don't understand. I speak to many people here, overseas, whatever. And I went in June overseas to have a various discussion about it. And I say first, where should we go? No, people say, let's go to Kyalami. I say, why? Because we have a racetrack. The racetrack becomes 20% today's of Formula One. So therefore, it's not a matter that we have a Kyalami. Kyalami has an inherited history of motorsport for sure. So has East London. We just raced in East London. In real fact, Fabienne raced in East London this weekend. And so we say East London has most probably a longer or older history of Formula One racing. So if we once stop scrabbling about it, where we're going to do and how we're going to do, and I'm better than you and you better than her, whatever it is, as quick as we sit together and say, guys, that's what we want to do. Let's make it good for South Africa. I believe most probably 3 years maybe. But then we have to work day and night. I was involved in Abu Dhabi. I did the whole thing for the government there. I worked for the UAE government. And this was done 24/7. So we can also do 24/7. That's a matter of interest and will. So if we stop arguing what we're going to do, and I'm actually in a certain way, first instance, like I told you before, not arguing where we must go. Let's argue first that we get the job done. Then we decide what is suitable for South Africa, for the industry, for the university, for the kids, for the children, for the carpet, for the catering, it's endless. South Africa has endless opportunities, I think, better than anybody in the world. All the people come to South Africa. Think about it. They pay with dollars to rand, with euro to rand. It's like a 20-to-1 situation. So for them to go to the parks and the wildlife, what we have, and the tourism is massive. If you look about the tourism in other countries, it must probably half as interesting what we have. Because if you go from Switzerland to Italy, are you going to now tour Italy? Because you go to the Grand Prix? Most certainly not. But when you go from there to South Africa, you're going to tour South Africa. So therefore, it's important for the industry, for the rental cars, for the flights, for the airports, for everything. So let's check how we're going to make the best business for all South Africans.
When was your first title in motorsport?
Sorry, mate?
Your first title as a champion?
Yes, sir, this is long ago, eh?
We are here to listen to that story.
It must probably in 1983 or 84, when I won the modified saloon car championship for 7 years in a row, and the overall championship in 84, 85. And then so it went on. But of course, I run different cars. I was really less pushing for championships than actually racing and make it happen. So, I mean, sometimes I race 3 cars on a weekend. I race a car with slick, standard tires, rear-wheel drive, front-wheel drive in the same weekend. So you need to be on it for that. And then like that, you can't really win the championship in a hurry. You win a lot of races. But you need to concentrate on one. Fabienne raced once 2 cars on a weekend, and I said, we're going to come short. Because the competition today is more competitive than what it was before. So you're struggling more with it. Even though Fabienne's first race, she was 43rd, it was 43 cars on the grid, and she finished maybe 32 and whatever. It was like a win. Today, it's more competitive. So the amount of people racing become less because it's more competitive. The more maybe Sunday Warrior or Saturday Warrior becomes more, more the club stuff becomes more and whatever. But the industry is going a bit up and down. So if I would have said I need to win more championships, I would have run it different.
Fab, with motorsport being an expensive sport that everyone talks about as that expensive sport, is there a way to accommodate those from disadvantaged areas to be part of the sport if they are keen to be part?
So it goes in stages. When you start racing, that's your indoor karting or outdoor as well, rental karting, if we can call it that, and then they make leagues out of that. So I think going through those phases is very important. Because you learn different things of the industry. And of course, at that point, it's quite inexpensive. And then you become a very good planner, financial planner, as to getting your kit and then upgrading and working towards where you want to go. And then there's different forms of racing. There's a night league race that's actually on tonight at one of the circuits. And then you can do endurance karting where you share the kart and you can share that amongst 3 drivers. And that is actually very cost effective. And then grassroots racing, like the Tillotson racing, is very good. There you're individual, you don't share the kart. And that one gives you the ticket to go overseas. So, of course, when you then go overseas, that's when you start looking at your backer buddy, working with corporates and things like that on getting your sponsors. But the biggest thing that I've seen is that you need to take from the motorsport outwards. So instead of just asking someone, can you support me? It's what are you giving back? What is the return on investment to them? And of course, changing lives is important for some people, and then they'll support you with that. So you become quite a good negotiator and a business person from a young age. And like we spoke before, learning fast forward. So you can use the tool to then actually help you become a really good business person.
You're also a mentor to upcoming drivers. How's that program going?
Very good. So I run an endurance kart with 3 ladies that race there. They're early 20s. And it's very much, how do I call it, a wake-up call almost, just to see how different it is for those girls that have no motorsport background, they first generation, as to how different I grew up and them. And I have to be their protector, because they do get backlashes. They are getting intimidated. One of them is starting to come through now, so that's good. And just taking race by race, I think, is important. But at that level racing, you can do that. And that's with all the kids that I coached from new. When they're new is when you can be bold and try different setups and just see what suits this person. So by the time they get into the top 10, top 5, all of that is ironed out. And the platform is given to them to then excel.
Incredible indeed. You're still tuned in to Netosportsglobal, #NSG. We are wrapping up a conversation with our special guest in motorsport, the guru in motorsport, Mr. Peter Lanz, together with his daughter, Fabienne Lanz, the race queen. We are proudly powered by the Academy of Sound Engineering, hashtag ASE. Mr. Lanz, as we wrap up, development is very close to your heart. If there are people listening to this conversation or watching this conversation that can come on board as good Samaritans to make that development a reality, what would you like to say to them?
You see, I always, from all my time, was involved, and I had good sponsors and big sponsors and stuff, whatever we did. And I call about sponsors, but I changed that. Sponsor is, I used to sponsor the police golf day, whatever, give them money, whatever from the business I have, or whatever the prizes and so on. And I didn't even think about it. Motorsport is more sports marketing. It has to be a two-way street. Because today, nobody's going to give you $1 million and says, okay, go and play in the track and whatever it is. It's a return on investment. And most of these return on investment are somewhere between 3 and 5 to 1. So if big companies want to make an impact, and they can have an impact, because motorsport is magazines, motorsport is everywhere, in schools and stuff. And we run, like Fabienne says, we run called the four-stroke racing, not an academy, but we got 100 competitors just from that Johannesburg here. And this is cheap to run. But the return is there, not as big as you're in the right place. So you need to always see the company to more sponsor or advertise through a whole series. It's like the soccer is the same thing, or the golf may be the same thing, you know. If you sponsor motorsport, return on investment, it will be better when you spend a whole lot of people, which then will come up. Individuals will go. And you have to make a platform. So people who say, okay, that's interesting, we in that league, whatever. Everybody runs to the petrol companies. But there's many other companies which are in motorsport. The most funniest thing happens, whatever, which is in motorsport. Or not only motorsport-orientated people, the Pick and Pay, for instance. I would go and talk to the Pick and Pay or the Checkers, whatever it is, because they're family-orientated stuff. And karting, at the lowest level, is very family-orientated stuff. So their return on investment is huge, because that's where they go. It's a similar thing when everything is branded for a different type of tire. But like I say, the companies who can get involved in whatever help, and not because they were like, say, oh, we like to look after kids. Everybody one day say, why do I spend the money? Where's my return? So the return is easier, but it's not easy to manage. So it is better to be involved in a whole set and then say, what is coming out of it? You know, sponsor a school, it's the same thing, or have an investment, motorsport investment in school. But sports investment, sports marketing is for me the most important thing, because you get a return and it's valuable.
Marvelous. Fab, how was your last race and what's still left out in your calendar for 2025?
So we raced in East London last weekend. We managed to finish third in index of performance and overall results, which was really good. I think somewhere halfway in, I think I was leading the race until I had to switch with my co-driver. And then something in the pit changeover, whatever, didn't go according to plan. It happens. And when I then got the car back, it looks like there was something with the fueling in that. So we had some setbacks, but the pace was really good. And I managed to just maintain that and keep the car within its limits. And we got third. And so looking for the end of the year, I did a lot of things with Momentum, August, and even now September, doing amazing things with women in sport as a whole, and cross-pollinating the sports, using my sport, their sports, and seeing what we can do. So that's a really interesting space that I'm navigating. And then I just got confirmation to go to the World Endurance Championship through the FIA Women in Motorsport. Wow. Where I went to England early on in the year for Formula E with the FIA Women in Motorsport. So that actually came through sim racing, so I gave that a go. And I did the quickest time for Africa, so that gave me the spot to do this. So I'm looking forward to that in November, because there's a lot of people endurance racing there, and that's what I do. But of course, the Iron Dames are there, and that's the top ladies in the world at the moment.
Fantastico. Mr. Lanz, as we say goodbye, your final word?
If you, the final word is when parents or kids, because that's really what I strive for, is don't ever think because you can't drive as fast as somebody else that you can't make it. Like I said before, the slowest guy might be the fastest one. So you need to just keep on being on it, and keep on going and keep on going and keep going. There is setback of note, that's for sure. I had to manage my own setbacks, obviously, because my parents didn't come from motorsport. But that doesn't mean it. The parents do not need to be from motorsport. Important is keep on it and never give up. It's a mind over matter situation.
The slowest driver might be the fastest one. Words coming from the legend himself. Fab, as we wrap up, Madiba described South Africa as a rainbow nation. Are we seeing this rainbow in terms of those that are showing interest in the sport?
For sure. So my racing team was that, and I on purpose selected that. So I had boys, girls from each background. Again, also to understand the cultures and how do we bring that together into a neutral space that we can actually work together in that space, be teammates and understand each other and give that space. So a lot of tolerance was there. The kids were all curious to understand and work together. So it is there. It works, but it's that approach of not being offended. When someone says something a certain way, it's because they were brought up in that way, you know. So like an Afrikaans person will call me Tannie because that's a respectful thing to do. And again, don't have that lens of being offended. Just keep it open. Where's it coming from? And we can do this together. It's proven.
Thank you so much for pulling through to Netosportsglobal.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Lanz, thank you so much for pulling through to Netosportsglobal.
You're welcome.
Marvelous. That's how we wrap up our conversation with the two greats when it comes to motorsport. Peter Lanz and his daughter Fabienne Lanz. They are doing wonders out there, and we say it is never impossible. If you are into it, go for it. Mr. Lanz said something profound to say the slowest driver could just be the fastest driver. My name is Neto, N-E-T-O Chemani. Hosiati, Konyangazi, Mumka, Japandle Gonjani, Moyani, Voko Dendele. Thank you for tuning in. Netosportsglobal, hashtag NSG, proudly powered by the Academy of Sound Engineering, hashtag ASE.
Netosportsglobal. Netosportsglobal. Hashtag NSG. Remember to like and subscribe.